Hello, everybody. Uh, Today is our first day of presentations, and I'm going to take a quick roll right now because, as I said in my thing, I'm going to be taking roll. So let me do this real quick. Haley Smith is here. Yay, Haley. Ramos. Ramos. Simmons. I can always count on that Simmons girl. She was a good person. Robbie Robinson is here. Nick Putney from Putney, Vermont. Cole Salazar. Tyler Montano never lets me down. DeMellon. Vanessa. Ooh, Vanessa's here. Haven't seen that person in a while. Oh my God. Rocky Frederick is here. That's ridiculous. McEnany. Santonge. Faith Haley. There's a comedian named Faith Haley. I don't think she's in my class though. That's somebody else. Good to see Tiana Smith is here because she's presenting. It's always a good thing. Noemi Alonso. Who's left? Koji is. Is Cujo here? Cujo. We are missing the Cujster. Okay, everybody's here except him. Life is good. Okay, so I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Tiana Smith. She's going to give us a talk today. And without any further ado, I'm going to hand the, if I can, how do I do this? Hang on, don't go anywhere. Caption, breakout reactions, more. Okay. So Tiana Smith is now the host, which should mean that you can present your screen. Tiana, can you put your face up? Put your video on. There she is. Okay, so now down at the bottom, it should say share screen. See if you can share your PowerPoint. And when you do that, you can go ahead and start anytime you want. And unmute too, that's gonna help. There we go.
Can you see that?
Okay, yes. Yes, we're good.
So the topic that I chose to do for my research paper was seeing how gluten and vitamin D play a role in Hashimoto's disease. And Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disorder that involves the immune system, and the immune system creates antibodies that target the gland and attacks it, and that causes damage to it. And since the thyroid gland is part of the endocrine system, Hashimoto's causes changes in the production of hormones, and this causes changes in different functions of the body. And there's inflammation that is associated with this disease, and it's called chronic lymphocytic thyroiditis, and that leads to hypothyroidism, which is when the thyroid is underactive and not producing enough thyroid hormone. And Hashimoto's causes the thyroid gland to become damaged over time, and it also causes thyroid hormones to be less abundant in the blood. And the picture that I have in this is basically just showing how antibodies from the immune system are targeting the thyroid and are ready to attack it. And there's many different symptoms associated with this disease, and some of them include fatigue, weight gain, dry skin, and depression. Doctors aren't really sure what causes Hashimoto's, but they think that it has something to do with a genetic flaw or a virus or bacterium that triggers the immune system to attack the gland. And other causes that, or other factors that could cause this disease include age, gender, and heritability. Some complications that are associated with this disease are caused to the hypothyroidism that occurs with it. And these are the presence of a goiter, which is the enlargement of the thyroid gland causing swelling in the throat area, heart disease, mental health issues, and myxedema, which is an advanced form of hypothyroidism, and also birth defects in babies that are born to women with hypothyroidism can occur too. So to diagnose Hashimoto's, a blood test is normally ordered, and this is screening for thyroid hormone levels and antibody levels in the blood. And an underactive thyroid causes low levels of thyroid hormone and high levels of thyroid stimulating hormone. And thyroid peroxidase can also be present, and that is an indicator of Hashimoto's disease. So to treat Hashimoto's, you can use a synthetic thyroid hormone if thyroid hormone is deficient. And the most commonly used synthetic hormone is levothyroxine, and this mimics thyroid hormone thyroxine and regenerates normal thyroid hormone levels, and that reverses any symptoms of hypothyroidism that have already started happening. So for this paper, I looked at different research to do with vitamin D and gluten, how that plays a role in Hashimoto's. But first, I looked at how both of those play a role in autoimmune diseases in general. So with vitamin D, there's cells that are involved in immune responses, such as macrophages, dendritic cells, T cells, and B cells, and they all have receptors for vitamin D, and they can produce and respond to active vitamin D3. And vitamin D is an important vitamin of the immune system. So in many autoimmune diseases, vitamin D deficiency plays a role in the development of the disease. Autoimmune diseases that vitamin D deficiency is associated with include multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes, and inflammatory bowel disease. And the two diseases that I focused on for this paper were type 1 diabetes and multiple sclerosis. So many studies have been done to see the effects that vitamin D supplementation could have on individuals with type 1 diabetes that also had vitamin D deficiency. So one study that evaluated children with type 1 diabetes found that 58% of them had lower levels of vitamin D when compared to the control group, where 32% of healthy children had low levels of vitamin D. So this study concluded that at the onset of type 1 diabetes, vitamin D levels are low, and providing supplementation of vitamin D can help with preventing the disease. Also, I looked at a study involving individuals that had multiple sclerosis, and those that had an increased disability due to MS had lower levels of active vitamin D3 compared to individuals that were in the control group that had no multiple sclerosis. And this study concluded that detecting vitamin D deficiency and providing supplementation of vitamin D can help manage multiple sclerosis. So these two studies confirm that vitamin D deficiency is associated with autoimmune diseases, and that vitamin D supplementation could have positive effects on controlling autoimmune diseases. And this is how gluten plays a role in different autoimmune diseases. So gluten is the main protein in wheat, and it's common in many diets, and this is why gluten or autoimmune diseases that involve gluten are becoming so prevalent, because gluten is involved in many of the foods that we eat. And gluten affects the microbiome of the stomach, and it causes permeability in the intestines, and it also causes immune responses, and it's toxic to living cells, and it promotes inflammation. So some of the research that I looked at provided some evidence that shows an increase in gluten consumption has caused an increase in celiac disease, and that could be why gluten is associated with, and gluten can be associated with other non-celiac autoimmune diseases. So the first study that I looked at involved non-obese diabetic mice, and what they did was put some of the mice on a gluten-free diet and then other mice on a standard diet that involved consuming gluten. And the mice that didn't consume gluten were less likely to develop diabetes, or it prolonged the time it took for them to get diabetes. And this graph is showing the dashed line is the mice that didn't consume gluten, and the solid line is the mice that did consume gluten. So it's showing how those that did consume gluten were more likely to also develop diabetes. So that is just also showing how the mice that didn't consume any gluten were at a lesser risk of developing diabetes. In another study with individuals that had multiple sclerosis, some were put into a group where they didn't consume any gluten, and some were put in a group where they were still consuming gluten. And, sorry, I lost my spot of where it was.
No problem. Take your time.
Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay. In individuals that had multiple sclerosis, antibodies were present that are associated with celiac disease, and in 11% of individuals, they already had been diagnosed with celiac disease. So after 3 years of being on a gluten-free diet, it led to greater digestive and neurological health in these individuals. And in this graph, it's showing the different types of antibodies that were present, and those that there was more individuals that had antithyroid antibodies present, which shows that the gluten could be causing issues with the thyroid gland. So both of these studies suggest that removing gluten from the diet leads to a reversal of symptoms in individuals with type 1 diabetes and multiple sclerosis. So next, I looked at how gluten specifically played a role in Hashimoto's, and this is due to gluten causing a cross reaction between gliadin and thyroid antigens. And gliadin is a glycoprotein that is within gluten. So when gluten is digested, gliadin is produced and it's seen as a foreign invader, causing an immune system response. And gliadin also mimics transglutaminase, and that is an enzyme that is found in the thyroid. So when the body has an immune response due to gliadin, antibodies attack both gliadin and transglutaminase. So this means every time gliadin is produced, the thyroid gland is also being attacked. And these attacks to the gland can last up to 6 months after gluten is consumed. And research has found that those that have Hashimoto's disease are 10 times more likely to also have celiac disease, which confirms that gluten is involved in this disease. And the picture that I have up here is just showing how gluten mimics thyroid tissue, and that's how the thyroid is getting attacked every time gluten is consumed. Okay, so the first study that I looked at was involving 16 individuals that were already diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and they were put on a gluten-free diet for 6 months. After the 6 months were up, it was found that none of the participants developed celiac disease, and in those that adopted a gluten-free diet, only 6 individuals still had thyroid antibodies present. And adopting a gluten-free diet showed positive changes in the levels of thyroid antibodies, thyroid hormones, and vitamin D. And also in this group, since the level of antithyroid antibodies decreased, thyroid secretory function improved, and that led to transglutamase antibodies to decrease. Next, I looked at how vitamin D specifically plays a role in Hashimoto's. So vitamin D is a natural immune modulator and a regulator of various immune-mediated processes, and vitamin D supplementation and exposure to the sun can help to prevent and manage Hashimoto's disease in individuals that have a vitamin D deficiency. So the first study that I looked at involved 92 participants, and those that were vitamin D deficient were more likely to also have more antithyroid antibodies present, and also those that had Hashimoto's were more likely to also have a vitamin D deficiency. And from this study, it was concluded that vitamin D levels do play a role in Hashimoto's disease, and that individuals with Hashimoto's should have their vitamin D levels screened to be treated with vitamin D supplements if necessary. And this graph is showing how individuals with Hashimoto's, which is represented by HT, are more likely to have the vitamin D deficiency compared to those with no autoimmune thyroid disorder, those with an autoimmune thyroid disorder, or Graves' disease. And in another study, it looked at how the effect of vitamin D is on thyroid antibodies and hormones. And these individuals also already had Hashimoto's disease. They were divided into a placebo group and a vitamin D supplementation group. And after 3 months of receiving a vitamin D supplement, antibodies and hormones that are associated with the thyroid were significantly reduced in the group that was receiving vitamin D supplementation. So this study concluded that using vitamin D as a supplement to treat Hashimoto's disease helps to diminish disease activity. And the last study that I looked at for vitamin D was conducted to see what the effects of vitamin D supplementation would have on individuals that had Hashimoto's and also had daily sun exposure. So they were already getting some vitamin D from the sun. It looked at 218 individuals, and out of that, 186 were found to have low levels of vitamin D. And these individuals were given a vitamin D supplement for 4 months. And after the 4 months, these individuals had a decrease in thyroid antibodies. So this study is suggesting that vitamin D deficiency is involved in the development of Hashimoto's disease. And if it's used as a supplement, it can treat individuals that have this disease. So in summary, Hashimoto's disease is an autoimmune disorder that involves the thyroid gland being attacked by antibodies produced by the immune system. And vitamin D and gluten play a role in Hashimoto's disease and also many other types of autoimmune diseases. Multiple studies have shown that a gluten-free diet and vitamin D supplementation causes the prevention or decrease in disease progression of Hashimoto's disease and other autoimmune diseases such as type 1 diabetes and multiple sclerosis. And the studies that I looked at for this paper showed that there are natural remedies to treat autoimmune diseases such as Hashimoto's disease. And these
Okay, good. Any questions? Any questions for Tiana?
I have a question.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So I know you said that one of your study like focused on children, but did all your studies like focus on children, or was it like an array of different age groups that they were focusing on Hashimoto's disease?
It was an array. That was the only one that involved children. The others were like young adults to adults.
I have a question. Can you hear me? Am I good? Okay. Did you get any info about the connection between vitamin D and the autoimmune thing or not? Or it was just an observation?
Can you repeat that? I'm not sure. Wait.
Yeah, I mean, did they talk about why vitamin D might make the autoimmune disease less bad, or they just say, look, we noticed this?
I think it's just what they noticed. All that I saw was that the cells in the immune system have receptors for vitamin D, and I think they were thinking that I guess maybe the receptors weren't really working in people that had an autoimmune disorder.
Oops. Oh.
Are there any more questions? Do I just stop sharing my screen, or I don't know?
So you're muted, by the way. I don't know.
Oops, sorry. Yeah, stop your share. Can you stop your share, or at least like if you close your PowerPoint, that should stop the share too. There we go. Okay, guys. Thank you all for showing up today. As you know, it's part of your grade, so I'm glad you came. We're going to be back at it on Thursday. That's all we have for today. Do I have anything particular to say? No, not really. I think Tiana was very good. I enjoyed her presentation. I hope you all did too. Let's meet back here again on Thursday.
Slush, would you mind meeting with me after class, after this?
Sure. I'm going to talk to Tiana first. Tiana, I'll send you, and then I'll send Nick a link. And then, Nick, you just open your link, and I'll be there as soon as I finish with Tiana.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Goodbye, all.